Hello and welcome to the damn show, the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is Friday. We finally made it to Friday. It's Friday. Now we just got to get through Friday, and then we'll be to Saturday, which is officially the weekend. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. I have got my guest today, or co-host today, or however we work it. You know, it's kind of weird the way my system works. I've got Mindy with me from the Sassy Heathen, and I've got, look there, haha. Hello.
There she is.
There she is. Good morning. I have got Cynthia McDonald. Good morning, Cynthia. How are you? Surprise.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Mindy. How are you all doing?
I'm
Doing
good. How are
good.
you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I do apologize. We're running a bit behind, and I might have to dip out because my coffee is on the stove.
Coffee is important. It's okay. We went through this last time, I believe, too. Coffee is. So when you say the word, and I'll just do the thing.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot of echo from you. Do you have headphones or something?
Yes, I am about to put on my headphones.
Okay, no worries. I'll go ahead and introduce you. Miss Cynthia is a social worker, an atheist, an activist, and she is currently the host of a show called The 13th Percent over on the YFNA network news channel. There you go. Among many other things, of course. Let me do this. There we go.
There we go.
Yay. Good morning. You know, sometimes the technical instances add to the nuances of the show. If my show in the morning went off without a hitch, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd sit here afterwards going, what the hell just happened? So good morning, Miss Cynthia. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And we've also got Miss Mindy. I'm going to say, am I doing this right? Dormier?
It's Domeyer. It looks French, but it's not.
It's not French. Domeyer. Okay.
Domeyer, yeah.
Domeyer. Mindy Domeyer is an atheist, aspiring writer, mom of three, and she is the host of the Sassy Heathen. Sorry.
Yeah.
Last time I called you Misty or something. This time I'm calling you the Sassy.
Yeah, it happens all the time, so it's not a big deal.
I keep renaming Cynthia too. I called her Cynthia and all kinds of stuff, you know. But I tell you what, you guys run this show and call my name right because it's complicated over on this. That's the only excuse I got.
My mother-in-law's name is Cynthia, and she goes by Cindy. So you know, when we're in the same house together, it's Cindy and Mindy. So it gets kind of confusing sometimes.
I can see that. I didn't even know actually my name was Cynthia for the first 5 years of my life.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
What'd they call you?
Everybody called me Cindy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, and when I went to school, I remember like the teacher was doing roll call, and then, you know, she called my name and she was like, Cynthia. And I was like,
don't know who that is.
Right. And then she came up to me and she was like, your name is Cynthia, right? And I was just like, no, my name's Cindy. And so like that was the first confusing moment that I had in school, and so they had to talk to my parents and get me straightened out because they said, "Child, don't even know her name. That's ridiculous."
I hear you. Well, so how was your week? I hope you guys had a great week so far, considering.
It was a little rough for me because the husband decided to cut our hedges. And did that out in the bright sunlight with his shirt off, with his pasty white skin. And now he's got 2nd-degree burns all across his shoulders and his upper back. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's all blistered and he's a big mess right now. So it's been fun times.
It's sort of like the man flu, but for the skin. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, my week has been okay. I was a little remiss. I had to fire my lawn guy, very passive aggressively.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the thing is that he contacted me on Monday and said, do you need a cut? And I was like, yes, can you come today? And then I get no response from him. But then again, I was having phone technical difficulties. I believe that the cellular service that was for my company was out nationwide for a while. And then so later on that evening, he texted me and said, I'm sorry, I was booked today. I'm coming tomorrow. I said, okay, cool. So the next day comes all day, and by the time that we get to like around 5:30 p.m., then he was not. I didn't see anything from him. I didn't get a phone call, a text, nothing. So I called him. Well, I texted him first. And I said, "Are you coming today or no?" No response. I called him, and it rang one time and then went to voicemail. So that means that he rejected my call. And I was like, oh. And I'm just like, and I was kind of like really taken aback because I'm a good customer and I even tip him every time that he's done with the lawn. So I'm like, yo, what's up? So luckily, I did get my lawnmower fixed. So I just cut the grass in the bedroom. So I am now my lawn guy.
There you go. Our lawn is fake grass. It's fake. The wife had it before she even met me. She got fake grass in. I thought, wow, she's a keeper. I'm keeping her. She's got fake grass. I have never once had to mow the yard. I've never once had to mow the rocks out front. Occasionally, I go out there and pluck a weed or two, and I'm like, dude, weed, why did you have to grow here? You could have grown over there, but you growed here, and now I got to pluck you. And that's kind of the extent of my... Because I was, I grew up out in West Texas, and the yard doing the thing was, broke my back doing yards when I was a kid, so no more for me. I saw that fake grass. I was like,
My mother-in-law, we're staying at her house right now, and she is a garden person. Like she has she's got 2.5 acres, and there's gardens everywhere. And they're on vacation this week, so I'm watering their flowers. It takes me 45 minutes just to water her plants that need to be watered, that are in like pots and stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a lot to take care of. So it's a little overwhelming.
Well, I hear the background, the nature going on. There's nature. You're actually among nature there. Mindy. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, we're way out in the country. Like there's a cornfield out back, and then on this hill and across the street, there's a great big huge cow pasture. So
oh yeah, okay.
Lots of space and nature out here.
Real nature. Gotcha. How's that coffee doing, Miss Cynthia?
You know what? I think I should check on it.
Do you want to check on? I will push the button. And me and Miss Mindy here. Yes, Mindy. So cows.
Yes, cows. Let me tell you. Okay, so I grew up in the city, and not a very big city, but like a decently sized city, 100,000 people, and I lived in the suburbs basically my entire life. And my in-laws have lived out in the country for 30 years. So when we started coming here to visit, I didn't realize how loud cows are.
Are they loud?
They're really loud. They'll go down there and the pasture goes out across the street. And they'll be out there and they'll be grazing. And then one of them will get upset about something, just start mooing. And the moo just echoes everywhere. I didn't realize that they were so noisy and so talkative. It's like, wow.
Wow. They're out there, let me sing for you the song of my people.
Basically. And it happens in the middle of the night, too, when they're out in the pasture. And you're just like, okay, it's 2:00 in the morning. Stop mooing, please.
Yeah. Native Atheist asked, what or what? And the answer is cows are loud. That's you know what? I think we got so distracted by our wonderful and beautiful technical difficulties that we often have that I forgot to say hello to everybody in the chat. So I want to take a moment, if I may, and say hello to everybody in the chat. Good morning, everybody. The Epileptic Skeptic, good morning. How are you doing? Native Atheist, Empathetic Atheist, Justin, interesting show last night. I caught part of it. It's funny. You tell that lady, you're like, come on our show. We're the Empathetic Atheists. And we're kind of gentle and soft and fuzzy. And then you're like, come on our after party. We're kind and gentle and soft and fuzzy, and we'll give you treat you respectably and all that. And at the same time, you invited me, knowing that I would, if I was to go to that, I would become ranty Chris and quite possibly be less than cordial to the theists who I'm debating with. So I just wanted to point that out. You kind of said, come here, there's a lion's den right over here. And if I'd have gone, it'd have been to the lions with this lady. Just saying. Brainbug, good morning. Nice to have you. Tons of mice. Hi, Guy. How are you doing? Tons of mice. Nice to have you this morning. Lots of wonderful. Hey. Junk Shop Library. Good morning. So, how are you and Miss Julie doing? Julie the voice. Are you guys staying cootie free? I hope you're staying cootie free. I got a new thing
I love
here.
that cootie free.
Let me see if I missed anybody. I'm sure I've missed somebody. Ethan is in the chat. He's watching me.
He's always watching.
He's always watching. That's only a little creepy. It's only a little creepy. Yeah,
it's Ethan, though. We all love Ethan.
Yes, Ethan. I think he was talking about a picture he has of him, or he was talking about how he used to dress. Point A.
I saw that this morning. Yeah.
And yes, I think I vaguely caught a glimpse of it. I didn't actually pause and go, is that what? So I need to go back and see the image. I'm almost supremely confident it's probably him in the outfit he was talking about. What do you call it?
The shiny shirt. So it looks like he's got like a white tank underneath, and then he's got the sunglasses hanging in the middle, and then he's got a really shiny shirt, and then he's got blonde hair, so he's got a very Backstreet Boys look going on.
Gotcha. Oh. You didn't know I could do that, did you?
The new kids.
I don't know the difference. They're all the same to me. I'm sorry. No, I'm old enough to know who they are. I'm just not really... wasn't into it. I wasn't cool enough to know the difference between one or the other. I thought that was shut up, Chris.
The new kids are like 80s though, and the Backstreet Boys are like 90s.
Oh, I see. I didn't realize.
Yeah, see, I was a little girl that was big into the boy band, so of course I'm gonna remember that.
Trina says you hit it spot on. So I'll take Trina's word.
Yeah, you did really good.
Looks like you hit it spot on. Looks like our chat's working better today. More gooder. It's most goodest, actually.
More gooder.
Yes.
More gooder. We can grammar well today.
Yes. So, hey, Mindy, with your show, while we wait for Miss Cynthia, tell us what's been going on with your channel and your show. You've been spreading your wings a little bit.
I have been not so much in like I try and keep to my video schedule. I didn't this week because of everything that happened with my husband, but I've been trying to stick to a schedule where I've been doing like an informative video on Mondays, do like a little teaser on Wednesday, and then I haven't done a live stream in a bit because I haven't had anyone on, and I'm having more fun going to other people's live streams.
Yeah.
So that's basically what my focus has been, like participating in other people's live streams. I was on with the Atheist pastor last week for his Friday night 6-pack. And then I'm doing this show with you. I did an interview with Atheist Morph. I don't know if everybody has heard of Atheist Morph, but he's really awesome. We had a lot of fun doing that interview, but that's pre-recorded.
Yeah. He wears like an outfit.
He wears the morph suit, yeah.
A morph suit. Okay, all right, that's cool.
Yeah, that's why he's the Atheist Morph.
I gotcha. Well, it was cool. Yeah. I did glimpse some of his stuff. I didn't actually get to listen to him very long. So
yeah, he's a lot of fun. He's really funny. And but I guess in his career and what he does, if he can't be, publicly declaring that he's an atheist. So, I mean, and that's understandable because sometimes, we can put our jobs at risk if they knew what we're doing, basically, which is sad, but sometimes a precaution you got to take.
Yes.
And obviously. Then what else am I doing? I'm going to be on with Neil, I think on the 4th of July, the 604 Atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another one that I'm doing. And then I'm doing the roundtable again with Ethan on the 8th. And we're going to be talking about euthanasia and dying with dignity.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I actually approached him about that topic because in the beginning of May, my grandfather passed away. And he had chose to go that route, and he enacted the dying with dignity. So
really?
Seeing as how I kind of struggled with that, I thought it would be a really good topic to sit down and discuss with a bunch of people. And right now we're still looking for any theists that oppose it, that are willing to sit down and have a friendly discussion about it. So if anyone's interested, get a hold of either me or Ethan and we can set something up.
Okay. I just want to mention that Trina DeLuca says Ethan admits to things that most people will be embarrassed by. That is true. He doesn't necessarily though admit to them. He brags about them. There's a difference. Some people are like, you know what? Okay. Yeah, I did that thing. I'm sorry, I did it. But not Ethan. He's like, hey, look at me. I did it. Look, I did it. Here's me. That's cool. Sorry, Cynthia. You got kind of coming on the into something there, but
okay.
My love to Ethan, right? Love to Ethan.
Yes.
Good morning,
Ethan
students.
Is the bomb.
Yeah,
he is everything. Yes, I love Ethan.
He's watching.
Yeah, I know. That's why I gotta talk him up really good. Ethan, you are wonderful. You're the best thing ever in life. Yay, Ethan.
He's always there watching. A banjo
so next time you
playing in
have
the background.
on the show, you got to play a little clip of that Michael Jackson song. Somebody's watching you.
There you go.
Oh man, right.
Yeah, I think more appropriately it'd be a banjo. Would be more appropriate. But a ding, 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 ding.
No,
not Deliverance. Oh God,
no, we're not going to go down the Deliverance path. No.
I didn't really think you were old enough to get that one. Thank you, Mindy. That was awesome.
Hey, I'm older than Ethan. Give me some credit.
You lie. Tell your lies to someone else.
No, 1979. I'm 40 years old.
Wow. Ethan looks like he's 20, 21. We talked about that the other day. It's kind of an old hat.
What's funny is I messaged him and I was like, dude, I didn't know you were that old. He's like, how did you know? I was trying to keep that secret. And I said, well, it's not much of a secret.
Yeah, no.
Chris talked about it on his show. And I was like, I thought you were 23. He's like, no.
Tops.
Wow.
23. Tops.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you shave, right? How'd I let this kid on my show? And then he's 37. 37. This kid. There you go. Yes, kid is you didn't know I spoke Greek, did you? He is just like, he does not look anything like. Of course, yesterday we had this thing. He said, I was talking about, well, maybe it's because of the way you dress. He's like, I've been dressing this way since I was a kid. And I was like, maybe that's why we're on to something, you know? If you dress like a kid all the time, people mistake you for a kid. But, that doesn't work. Or like Steve Buscemi would not be able to pull off the kid kind of thing like Ethan can. The years have been kind. Damn your brown hair. I was gray at his age, 37 years old.
Yeah,
but gray is better than bald. My poor brother-in-law started like losing his hair in his early 20s, and he's like 35 now, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Bald is next. I rock the bald. I've balded myself before. I was a sexy bald man. Yeah, so I'm ready. I'm prepared either way. I can do sexy bald. I ain't scared.
If you have like a nice head,
I got a nice head.
If you have a nice head, you can pull off bald. Matter of fact, I would prefer men to go just straight bald rather than try to hold on to that little patch of like the Caesar crown.
The Picard.
Comb over. When I was 18, I was dating this guy whose father was bald, and he wouldn't give up the comb over. And it was like, it would start here and it went over his head like this. Yeah. And I remember we would go outside, and whenever it was windy, it would like flap way out here because the wind would catch it. So like,
wow, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was watching we do Sci-Fi Saturday. You guys know about Sci-Fi Saturday. We were talking about the original episode with Captain Pike from back in the 60s, and the doctor on that, he's got blonde hair and he's got the Caesar crown, but they've got his long blonde hair over here combed all the way up and over like this. Yeah, I was like, man, what a style that they would do that on TV and all that back in the day. It was crazy.
Or give them a wig, but their wigs were not that great either.
That's true. Well, Kirk wore a hair patch.
Yeah,
and they actually did a pretty good job. I guess they had more money for the hair patch with him. I don't know. So, Cynthia, how was your week in the world of atheism and activism? How did you do a lot? Were you busy?
Well, let's see. So like, in the world of atheism, just basically saying, hey, I don't believe in God. That's great. And so, and just trying to make sure that, we steer clear of those conversations as much as possible. It was kind of funny. I was messing with, the president of my ADOS Chicago chapter, because we all went to I've been quarantined for the past 3 months, and one of our chapter members actually had like a birthday party with everybody who's been quarantined, right? But it wasn't a whole lot of people because we were kind of distanced apart, and so we got into a whole conversation about the historicity of Jesus, right? And and he kind of bullied me to say that Jesus existed, and I said no, possibly. And because like I was like, I don't have much of a doubt that there was a person running around in Palestine named Yeshua who actually claimed to be the Messiah, because that happened a lot during that time period,
right.
But the guy that is divine, that's worshipped, adored, extolled, lauded, hung on the cross 3 days later and died. 3 days later, came back and said, "Hey, guess what? I'm alive." Looking face. Yeah, that guy. Not so much believe in these that existed. So,
not convinced.
No, not convinced. And I have very good reasons. That's of that whole thing. But, he kind of like, just say that he existed because it's true. He existed. But he kind of bullied me because I had like a lot of libations that night. So, I was just like, I'm not about to argue with you because I am full of wine and cocktails right now.
Don't make me go off. Yeah,
right.
I
was like, that's what, listen, can I please enjoy my inebriation? Like, like any, sane person. Come on now, seriously. But no, but other than that, it was that was pretty cool. But we actually been getting ourselves prepared for like a press conference and also to celebrate Juneteenth, which is today. Well, Juneteenth is today. The press conference and event that we're doing is actually on tomorrow. But I wanted to know, are you all familiar with what Juneteenth is?
I am now. I wasn't before.
Not enough. So regardless, please tell us, everybody, what it is, what's going on. And if you don't mind, at the end, would you tack on why it's significant what Trump did about trying to do something on the Juneteenth, where at the end, but clue us in on Juneteenth proper.
I would love to, Chris. So Juneteenth is it's not a national holiday, even though that you have people that's actually trying to make it a national holiday. But basically, it is when African Americans, Americans and descendants of slavery, actually celebrate our emancipation. So so you're familiar with the Emancipation Proclamation that it came out of, I want to say in February of 1863. Mm-hmm. Well, that particular information was not spread throughout all the United States or America at that particular time. The news spread of freedom, as far as slavery was concerned, all the way, it took about a couple of years before the entire word actually spread that, slaves have been emancipated. And the last place to find out was in Texas, specifically Galveston, Texas. And they actually received the news of their freedom on June 19th, 1865. So that's when, so that's even after the end of the Civil War. So they were still working fields. They were still doing slave work at that particular time period, even though that they were free. So I believe that they had to send in Union troops in Texas to actually spread the word and physically, emancipate the slaves at that particular time.
Yes.
So now we're regarding that day as the day of remembrance, as a day of emancipation, as a day of celebration of freedom. Proverbial freedom for this particular, for freedom from that particular institution. So that's the reason why we celebrate Juneteenth. And like I said, we're the official day of Juneteenth is today. Yes. So yes, so we're going to be doing an event and a press conference where we're actually pushing an executive order to be signed by J.B. Pritzker. J.B. Pritzker is the governor of Illinois, to release much needed funding in the African American community in Illinois, especially the areas that have been affected the most by COVID-19 infection and deaths, and also businesses that were lost and kind of just decimated during the rioting and protests. So we're using that particular day to not only, gather with people, but also to do activism as well.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. So, now, if you don't mind, do you want to clue us in on the thing with Trump and the Juneteenth and the Tulsa?
Yes.
Now, you might want to give us some history on what happened in Tulsa.
Certainly. So in Tulsa, let's see, I'm going to have to get my Google out because I got to get my dates right,
Okay.
with Tulsa. So in Tulsa, I want to say, so like not too long after Reconstruction, there was, I don't know if you all ever heard, it was the Great Migration. And this is when formerly enslaved people, African Americans, a lot of them started to go up north from the South, and they started to occupy different cities. This normally happened in the late 19th century, early 20th century. You had, a massive exodus of African Americans from the South to the North. Now, one of the places that was actually settled was Tulsa, Oklahoma, by a good amount of African Americans that actually occupied a certain area in Tulsa. I want to say Green Switch. I want to say Green Switch. That's what I want to say, but okay. I think I'm wrong. But anyway, so they occupied a particular area in Tulsa where and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you all ever heard of what they call Black Wall Street. And
yes. I've heard the term, but
yeah. Well, the reason why they called it Black Wall Street is because this area of Tulsa that was mostly occupied by, African Americans was very prosperous. They had their own banks, they had their own businesses, their own schools. I mean, basically, they were a very much so running town that was that ran solely on their own. Matter of fact, you had several businesses even in that area that was doing business in Europe, trading and selling goods and services to Europe. And because of that, that was able to actually circulate a lot of money in that area. So this town, matter of fact, like I want to say like the dollar circulated at least about 100 times before it actually left the town. So yes. Again, so you can imagine this is a very prosperous town. So what happened in the 1920s, I want to say 1921, there was a white woman that accused a Black man of, I think that she said that he accosted her or touched her inappropriately, but it really didn't happen. So that was an excuse for men outside of Tulsa, mostly white men, to come in and basically burn the town down. You did have a lot of the residents that tried to defend the town, but when you had like the surrounding area that was majority white come in with guns and and explosive devices and all and this lynching and mobbing and things of that nature, it burned the whole place down, and then also all the businesses were lost, displacing the residents that was in that particular area. So they called that the Tulsa Massacre. Okay. And the people, I believe much later there was a lawsuit to recover money from people that lost their businesses and their homes, and and also people who lost relatives in that particular massacre. Mm-hmm. But I want to say that there was some money recovered, but it wasn't really what the value was of all that land and business and life lost. Right. So what the issue was with Trump is that this is a very somber day, a day that is looked upon with great sadness.
Well, if I may, can I ask, did the massacre of 1921 happen on Juneteenth as well?
No, it didn't happen on Juneteenth. I believe that it happened.
So the two instances are separate and not related.
Right, like the dates, according to Wikipedia, was between May 31st to 1921 to June 1st. So you had like several days you had a 2-day a mob attack on Tulsa,
the black community in Tulsa.
Yeah.
So I get the relation where the insult today comes from, that he would go to Tulsa on Juneteenth, even though now if he'd have gone on I don't think there's enough awareness for him to go on the actual, the days. Well, it wouldn't have surprised me.
I don't think that he knew what it was, to be honest with you. I don't think that he knew what it was.
Right. What was that, Mindy?
Is that what he put the ad out for, to have minorities come to that rally? Because I believe that was a Craigslist ad for paid actors to come out to this rally in Tulsa. And they were specifically looking for minorities to come out and support, which I thought was kind of funny, because if he had support, he wouldn't need to pay people to come in and do it.
Well,
there's some irony there.
Very extremely. Yeah. It was I'm sorry, it was the Greenwood district.
Greenwood. Okay. District. Greenwood. Yeah. So irony added to insult, the slap in the face. That I get it. I understand why they would, but right now, actually, I'm surprised that he went ahead and moved it off of that date.
He got a lot of backlash on trying to do a rally, because I think that's going to be the first rally that he had planned for a while, since we kind of went on quarantine, and so since he was going to actually have this particular rally on that day, it's like, hey, this is not a day for you to ingratiate yourself and just be narcissistic Trump. This is if you really were considerate about Black Americans, and especially if you're trying to court their vote, because a lot of us know that Joe Biden is terrible, but that's neither here nor there. You would be a bit more sensitive about how you're doing it, especially when you are correlating this particular city, which we know what happened in 1921, and then also on Juneteenth, which is the day of celebration from emancipation from slavery. I mean, come on, dude.
And why Tulsa? Why Tulsa?
Right.
Of all the cities that you could pick, why Tulsa? Why now? At this particular moment, why now?
Yeah. And now too, he's trying to claim that he tweeted about it, and I believe the tweet was like, "I made Juneteenth very famous." So he's trying to take credit for the holiday, and it's just like,
I don't advocate for violence, but I'm telling you,
normally,
I
knew where that was going, girl. I knew where you were going.
I was like, no, Trump, you don't get to. I mean, that's what I'm just saying. Like, oftentimes, like, I've noticed, like, especially in this particular climate, that you got a lot of tone deafness going on. You know what I'm saying? And like, for him, I guess I shouldn't be shocked that when he would say that, because I think I saw like an article where he actually said that, I made Juneteenth very famous. So I said, houseway, but but like, again, for you to take like this particular day that is highly regarded in the African American community and like make it into some type of mockery,
it's always about him. He's always trying to make whatever's happening specifically about him. Like when they ruled the other day about allowing DACA to stay in place. And he's like, well, I don't think the Supreme Court likes me. It's not always about you, Trump. It's not always about you. Yeah. And that's super frustrating to try and explain that to people that are, Trump supporters.
Well, our country is being run by the Tea Party. The ultimate hope of the Tea Party, and by a toddler, a 70-year-old toddler whose mind is being riddled by neurosyphilis. And I'm hoping that's the case, because it's just worse after that. If he doesn't have some kind of mental problem, like a physical problem going on with his brain, like literally dementia or something, then this man has a lot to answer for. And, I fully believe that he does not have control of the reins. Somebody else has the control of reins. He's picking his nose and pissing on the front of his pants. Look at this guy speak, right? There's no way he's the evil mastermind behind all this. Obviously, somebody else is. And some people said the Stephen, what's his name?
Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller.
Miller, and then his son-in-law, and then these other people. There's other people behind it. Clearly, it's not him. Good morning, Nakasachi. It's the Miller dude. Yeah. See, so I mean, the president, again, this guy, You know, as he's sitting over in the corner eating his own boogers, it's hard to imagine that this guy is the one who's doing all this stuff. He's just a patsy. He's just I say patsy. Patsy will apply later. That'll be the term later. Puppet. Yes, currently puppet is a good term. And it seems like, once again, on every subject, if there's a wrong side to be on that subject and or topic, this man will find it, or at least his ilk will find it. Because again, we're talking about the Tea Party, right? This is the ultimate. When Barack Obama, when a black man became our president, the far right-wing racist nutbags went crazy. Remember, they were burning his effigies in church parking lots and stuff. Yeah. So that was the beginning of it. It wasn't that Trump came into office and he brought racism with him. No, unfortunately, it reared its ugly head when Obama became president, and then it gained power through the Tea Party movement over the next 8 years until power, corruption, whatever. And now literally the Tea Party is the one running our nation. And we see what we get. They're cutting this, they're cutting that. They're putting the person who's against the Department of Science in the Department of Science. The person who's against the Department of Common Sense in the Department of Common Sense. The person who's, you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's. Sorry, I ranted.
No, it's okay. One of the things that I think that a lot of us need to be very clear about the United States is that the United States has always been racist.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I was not surprised about how what kind of pushback that Obama got when he was in office. I wasn't shocked. I mean. And also too, there's a lot of policies that I was very remiss about with Obama too. But as far as when Trump came around, that wasn't anything but just a backlash to actually Obama. I mean, to be honest with you, and so and Trump just basically says what a lot of America feels. Right. I mean, we in America, we have caste system based in race, and we have the top tier caste of white supremacy, and then the very bottom caste is Black folk, and we can definitely correlate that with data when it comes to health, when it comes to wealth, when it comes to position in the United States. And a lot of that is correlated back to slavery and Jim Crow. So when oftentimes when we hear him say certain things and people oh my goodness, I can't believe that he said that. It's not necessarily oh my goodness, clutch my imaginary pearls. It's more oh, I can't believe you said that out loud.
Right.
That's
not wrong.
Yeah. I mean, and so he is just very overt with his rhetoric and very overt with his actions. But I don't know, a lot of Black folks is you hear some white people are oh my goodness, I can't believe he said that. And Black people are yeah, no, we believe it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm, so that.
Well, there's one thing for it, again, I guess it's exactly what you're saying, that to know it happens, I don't want it to be that way. I want it to change. I don't yearn for the good old days when we had the Jim Crow and the other oppressive things. I don't yearn for those things. I want to progress and be everybody equal and have fun. I want to focus on fun. Let's have fun. Let's not worry about those. But I'm afforded the luxury, or if you will, the privilege of waking up every day and not having to worry if somebody's going to pick on me when I go out in the street because of the color of my skin.
Right.
I don't have to worry about that.
That's one of the pet peeves that I have about white people, and especially more privileged white people. Yeah. Why can't we just love each other? Let's just love each other. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. And it's just yeah, that's nice, but you're really naive into what actually needs to change. We can't just all of a sudden one day go, okay, we're going to love each other. No, there's a lot of things that need to be, we need to go in, we need to examine, we need to change. And it's not just an attitude change that's going to fix it.
I didn't say that was how I felt. I said that's how I wanted it to be.
I I was thinking of a particular person in my head, actually. No, I didn't mean you. No.
Yes. No. I know it is not that way myself, but yeah, that's how I want it to be. I want to, remember we're on Sci-Fi Saturday, and we can go through a whole Sci-Fi Saturday. Everybody's equal. We don't care what our genitals look like or our color of our skin or anything. We don't care if you have tentacles or not, because that's just part of Sci-Fi Saturday. We're all equal. And I like it. That's what the future about sci-fi, one of the things I enjoy about sci-fi, especially Star Trek, is it's our future without these kinds of problems. We got other problems we should be dealing with, not these problems. We need to be beyond this, beyond greed. So yes, I agree totally with you, Miss Cindy. To think that it's not there is clearly half the problem.
Right. And it's kind of funny, like I don't know if I told this story on your show before, Chris.
Tell it again. We love a good story.
Sure, that'll be great. Because I love stories. It's
not necessarily about the story itself; as how well you tell it.
Okay, cool.
Go.
Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to story time. So I remember I was asked because our lovely producer, Ethan, shout out to Ethan again, because you're great, saw a tweet of this Christian apologist who wanted to, who actually said that she didn't think that institutional racism existed, specifically she said systematic racism doesn't exist. And so he tagged me. He said, "Can I tag you into this conversation? I really wanted, her to come on, and we were going to actually see about having a conversation back and forth, on a friendly conversation on your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist channel, right?" And so I was willing to have the conversation, but after I had a back and forth with this person, I'm like, I can't. And the thing about it is that no matter, and I know that there was other people that were actually sending her data, they were sending her articles. I started to send her articles about different examples of policy that is still, and practices that still are going on in different institutions that shows that systematic racism is not a thing of the past. It's still very much so alive and present today. And I even, suggested a few books. I wish you all could see my room right now. It's quite horrible, but I have books everywhere. And so I will be reading all of them while I'm healing from my surgery on Monday. But I then even sent her some of the reference points from the books that she can start looking up, and after and it seems like that every data point, everything that I sent her, she had some type of pushback or excuse. So it's oftentimes I noticed a lot of cognitive dissonance started to kick in, and so after I sent her all this stuff and had this whole conversation with this person, she then said to me, "Well, we're just going to have to agree to disagree." I'm like, there's nothing to agree to disagree about. What you said is wrong. I mean, and one of the things that I had to tell her, and this is something that I noticed even I think that this is something that's this is across the board, and it's not just white people, because I noticed this about Black folks too, who may not necessarily be in an environment where their race is as consequential as maybe somebody else. And when I say that, I mean if they're living in a more affluent neighborhood, if they have a really decent income, if they have pretty good wealth, things of that nature, most likely apparitions. But if that's a case, they may not necessarily see it. And one of the things I said to her is that, it's easier for you to say something like that because this is not your life. You don't necessarily have to be concerned about how you're going to be able to navigate throughout the world because, you are in a privileged position. You're a white woman. You have you teach. I believe that she was a college professor. I know that she said that she had a PhD. She talked about her A+ rating school system for where she lives. So, you're not concerned about the education that your children are getting when they're going to school. You're not concerned about how they're going to live or eat or whatever. I mean, like, you're fine. But, you know, even with like myself, even though like, yeah, I have a college degree, but, you know, I am always concerned about how am I going to be perceived before I open my mouth when I'm if I'm in certain settings, because, you know, and it has been communicated to me before people actually get a chance to know me or things of that nature, that, you know, because I'm tall and because I'm Black, I'm intimidating, you know, and I'm like, I'm one of the nicest people you ever met in your life. Damn it. How dare you sound intimidating? Take that back, you know?
Take it back.
You know, and I mean, but oftentimes, like, you know, because there's certain like tropes that are attached to being Black, you're going to have, you know, people possessing implicit bias anytime that they meet like a Black person, Black woman, especially like especially if she can string a decent sentence together, you know, well, you're educated, but you're angry, you know, angry Black woman syndrome, or, you know, or like a Black man, you know, or he's a thug, you know what I'm saying? Like if he even came with a t-shirt and jeans on and it could just be his day off, he's a thug, you know? And I mean, like, these are like the different stereotypes that are often perpetuated in our society. And that bleeds over to basically any institution, any environment, any particular societal space that we would traverse in. And so in knowing, and then also too, you know, Black folk have what we call the talks. And I can think of like, and majority of Black men can attest to this, that their parents oftentimes have a speech to give them when they start to drive. Like, if you get stopped by the police, make sure you do this, make sure you look ahead, keep your hands on the steering wheel. Every time that a police officer speaks to you, you say, yes, sir, and no, sir. Or if it's a woman, say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. You have to announce everything that you do. If they're asking for your license and your insurance, and your license is in your wallet, announce that you are taking your hands off the steering wheel and you're going to put it in your pocket so that you can grab your wallet to get out your license and your insurance card, and et cetera, et cetera. And then, and also too, even like in spaces like in the work fields, like I've heard this a lot, work twice as hard to get half as much. So it's kind of like, get a good job, go to school, get a good job, but don't completely expect to go as far as you want to, because there's always going to be some type of handicap, some type of barrier that's going to be put in place because you are Black. And this is kind of how we live our lives. So race is very consequential to us because everything about us is attached to race.
True. That's a good point. And despite the fact that a lot of us don't see it, you know, oftentimes we can go through our day and not feel the effects of race. Again, some call that privilege, right? But yeah. Well, I've heard that there's anxiety medicines specifically geared towards African Americans because they face constant non-relenting anxiety.
Really?
You know, yeah.
I didn't know this. Send me a list, because I was thinking about going on a few. But that's unrelated.
I'll talk to the wife about that. Yeah, there's, you know, but it certainly makes sense as a group of people who are constantly under anxiety. I mean, we all have our own little petty anxieties that we go through. You know, is this shirt too tight? Am I showing the rolls of my fat? Am I, you know, what am I going through? Is my nose not right? Did I not put on my makeup today? We all have those little things that we go through without having to deal with the color. And then you add that on to something else. And it kind of ranges from everything. Like you said, you're tall and you're dark skinned, so people think you're intimidating. I am tall and I look the way I look. I kind of have a resting bitch face, you might say. You
have RBF going on, Chris.
Yeah. So I, you know, I've been told I'm intimidating as well. but I'm the friendliest guy you ever meet. You know, so a lot of those things, but I don't face the same anxieties and stresses and worries that you go through. And nobody sees it. A lot of people don't see it. And like you say, whenever I'm surprised when you say Trump says what we're thinking. Trump, that's kind of a hair to split. Trump thinks what's really going on, or Trump says what's really going on often, or where the way the right would like to get it to be back at that state of. And there's those of us who don't want it to be that way and have a hard time with it. That's kind of me.
It's kind of like, well, it's not necessarily, and you know, because even when I'm using like terms like white supremacy and racism and things like that, I'm not necessarily talking about everybody, because I understand that everybody doesn't really think this particular way. It's just that these particular and thought patterns and attitudes are very much so ingrained in, you know, in the country that we call the United States. I mean, remember when the country was founded, we already had, you know, slavery very much so well established for over 100 years.
Oh, yes.
I want to say almost 200 years before there was a United States.
Before.
Right, exactly. So remember, like the first slave ship came over from the African coast. From the West African coast to Jamestown, Virginia, in 1619, and then years later is in 1776 is when we had the birth of the United States. So you know, we already had like, you know, laws that were in the colonies that governed slavery and governed how people, you know, Black folk, you know, who were slaves were to act into and also behave in those particular areas.
Right. You know, a lot of people don't realize that we discovered America. We discovered America, and then we sent over the Pilgrims, right? And they just kind of assume that those things happen bunk, one right after the other. But in reality, a lot happened between Europe's discovery of the Americas and the people who settled in Plymouth Rock or wherever. Because, you know, when the Pilgrims moved inland and they settled in an abandoned Indian town, pueblo, little tent village. And it was abandoned because they all died of plague that happened before from other people who came and given them a sickness, and the sickness had been ravaging the continent really long before the Pilgrims settled Plymouth Rock. And when they settled and moved into inland, there was already the wasteland of where these people had died and gone because of us. So, and then slavery came with all of that. It was just officially the first huge slave ship came over as a slave ship officially on, as Miss Cynthia said. But there were slaves here before that. They came over as slaves, as workers individually, you know. So it's a stain on our nation. Obviously, it's something we can't wipe off. But it's something we don't need to foster. And sure, emancipating the slaves is one thing, but then what happened? Then you had turned into forced sharecroppers, and you had the Jim Crow laws. And it's like the Jim Crow laws was just oppression. It was just various different forms of oppression to keep the black man down. I'm not trying to sing that song, but you got to sing that song. And then it just gets worse. After they emancipate them, then once they're sitting there trying to fight for their freedoms, these jackasses start putting up statues to the people who were trying to fight to keep them oppressed. And then, okay, so that kind of happened and went away. And then we had the Jim Crow laws, and we had this laws, and we had that, and it was all bad. And then the 60s, they tried to get their rights again. They tried to, again, gain some freedoms and some respects. And look what happened. Up go these damn statues, General Lee and all this other stuff. Not all of those, or none of them were put up during the war. All of them were put up after the war.
Afterward,
and they, by a losing team, the participation trophy of wars, you know? So there's a lot more to it than a lot of people realize. There's a lot of history there that just kind of gets skipped over. Slavery, boom, it's just wrapped up in a word.
Right.
But it didn't end with slavery. It didn't end on, you know, I'd like to think it's a beautiful notion that on June 19th, the word swept into Houston, you said, and people were like, yay, we're free. And some of them were free, but that was just the beginning of a different kind of oppression, you know, for the black people. And then it went from that kind of oppression to another kind of oppression, the 50s and 60s to another kind of oppression.
Correct.
So, now here we are.
Here we are.
What if we made all police forces non-white? You could not be a white person to be a policeman. Would that fix the police problem?
No.
No, I don't think it would.
I mean, because like again,
there's more to it.
We're talking about like institutions. Like even like when you look at the police, that is an institution of law enforcement that has been also very much so shaped by the fabric of the United States when it comes to racism. Mm-hmm. I was listening to a podcast and I gotta go back and listen to it because like they started actually talking about the birth of the modern police force that we are familiar with now, and part of that birthing came from slave patrols and So in the inception of this particular country, the only people who were able to vote were white men that owned property. So even if you were a white man and you didn't own property, you were poor, you were an indentured servant, you were not able to vote.
If I may interject, originally the original Constitution or whichever, forgive me for which one said the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of property was originally one of the suggestions for that. And then they changed that to pursuit of happiness. Yes. Yeah. So carry on. Just for those who didn't know, originally it was for the pursuit of property.
Here being a little Canadian. So
right. All the stuff you don't have to worry about, Mindy. But anyway. So the slave patrols were actually because like we still had like the whole thing about protecting property, and remember slaves were property. The slave patrols were formed in order for them to basically protect the property of the slave owners. Right.
And the Second Amendment is related to that. The Second Amendment is related to the property owners and being able to keep their slaves.
Yeah, exactly. Because I didn't know that. Because basically what the Second Amendment was, it was because like, how like a lot of these, gun nuts like to get together with their like, Confederate hats and be like, we want to make sure that we got the right to have our guns and God and glory.
Don't take my guns. Yeah. I had a conversation with a woman about that yesterday. Don't take my guns. Don't take my flag.
All right. Yeah. I was like, wait, what? But, so like, those forming of militias for really what was the forming of militias and also the right to bear arms was mostly about making sure that at that time that if those neighborhoods, those people wanted to form militias to go ahead and protect their area, mostly from the British, they can do that. But when but as the country progressed and we actually formed armies, navies, Marines, things of that nature, like this whole militia forming is kind of like, you don't really need that. Right. And those other militias that actually formed, again, those were, like the very first police to make sure that they were protecting their area. And also, like I said, they were doing slave patrol to make sure that they were protecting the master's property. And also making sure that they had certain things in line to keep slaves in their place. And these patrols were actually made up of white men who were kind of drafted into these particular, militia groups. So they didn't really have a choice to say if they were going to serve on the slave patrol or not. A lot of them didn't, and they were paid. They weren't paid much, but they were paid. And and a lot of the tactics that you even see, like that you see, especially like in police forcing, like the chokeholds, the pinning down, the restraining. This is the same stuff that they used to do back in the day during slave patrols. You know?
That's right. Yeah, there was things that just have not changed. And the notion about this Second Amendment, again, part of the reason for the Second Amendment was so slaveholders could patrol their lands with armed weapons, so they could keep their property where it was supposed to be. That's the deal. But there was also this notion, and you were talking about these right-wing people. They're going to go out and they're going to defend our nation against an oppressive whatever. And yet here our nation has been overthrown. There's been a coup and where are they? They're hugging their guns, rooting for the bad. Our Constitution has been under assault literally for 3 years. He's been doing, as a puppet, of course, as you know, my feelings on that, doing all these things to destroy our Constitution and the fabric of our nation. And they're out there waving their rebel flag going, yay, waving their rebel flag. You know, because those are the only Americans who were rooting against the United States were the rebels.
Right. I mean, those are the insurgents and the anarchists that the Constitution actually talked about in the 14th Amendment, which is so that is kind of one of the things that a lot of these gun huggers are not very literate when it comes to the Constitution. I promise you, I could bet $1 per person that's hugging their gun like really close, probably never even took the time to really read the Constitution or even know what that law means. You know, they that's just either hear like the Bill of Rights, and then all of a sudden they think, oh yeah, that's my right. I could write right to bear arms, but they skip all the way through the entire Second Amendment. And also some of the other laws that are in the Constitution, especially the amendments that come after that. So like their civics knowing is lacking, you know. That's true. I mean, that's like actually for a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans really don't know the law.
And you know, the Second Amendment people will the Second Amendment people will trash the First Amendment. You know, the right to the you know what I mean? They have no idea, first of all. But I mean, we could go on about ourselves on this. Yes, absolutely. Somebody mentioned the Second Amendment here in the chat, but changing it back to the something I noticed I mentioned earlier, or somebody mentioned the thing they're talking about the Daughters of the Confederacy. They were a big player in the groups that kept throwing up the statues in the 50s and 60s during the Civil Rights era. So you know, and to me, that's like a big threat. Isn't that a threat? Isn't that because going back to like when I hear this argument to keep these statues because it's history, and then like I said, and I got to go back to the Constitution. I'm going back to the 14th Amendment, where the 14th Amendment specifically says that any person that participated in an insurgency against the United States, they were talking about the former rebel Confederacy, that they weren't even able to serve in office, unless they had like a 2/3 majority from the Congress that said that yes, they could, you know, which I feel like they should have never put that in. They should have said, if you came against the United States at all, you should not be able to serve in any type of capacity, shape, way, or form when it comes to legislation, administration, and or judgeship. You shouldn't be able to do it at all. Or if you support it, you shouldn't be able to do it all. So when I see like Confederate flags going up, when I see oblations to Confederate soldiers like Robert E. Lee, you are basically supporting insurgency against the United States. That's what you're doing. That's right.
And you know, Confederacy people who love this. I don't know if y'all remember, y'all lost the war, so and then was brought back into the United States.
I had this conversation yesterday with a woman.
What was it about?
I had a conversation with her on it was a Facebook post, had a picture of the Confederate flag, and half of it had faded away, and it said, "Don't erase our history." And I commented and I said, my toddler is older than what your history was. And, you know, you were unpatriotic because you were going against your country. I don't understand what part of that history is you're proud of. Just flat out to me, I want to keep my flag. So she doesn't care about any of what that flag represents. She just wants flag because she feels like something is being taken away from her. And she's like, if you think that makes me racist, then embrace it and I'm going to be racist. And I'm like, how does that make sense?
I mean, but that's the thing. But that's the thing. Like, you know, when you call people out on their shit, especially when it comes to that,
I don't understand. And I actually,
sorry, Mindy froze up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mindy, hey, real quick, I just want to interject. Thank you, Derek Cruz, for $2 of the support to the channel.
Am I here?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're here now.
You're here.
You're here now.
You're here. You were saying there was words.
There was words, and we didn't hear everything that you said, Mindy.
You're still kind of robot.
So I took a screenshot of one of the comments that she left me, and I put it up on Twitter because she was like, if you're going to call me racist for liking this flag, then I'm going to embrace it, and I'm racist. And I was like, I don't understand that.
I would like to point out for future reference that the flag they often use or mention was never used. It was never used. That flag was not used. It was part of a different flag and part of another different flag for a little while. The white flag that they used to surrender with is more appropriate than any rebel flag you see. After the war, it became popular. It was part of General Lee's personal flag, I think, of his battalion before or something. But the flag we know that these people are so proud of that they're tattooing on their bodies was never fully a part of the Confederate Army. Never, as far as I know, to my knowledge. That. Yeah, the rebel flag that we know, never. It became popular like in the 1900s, early 1910s or something, I think.
I think that's when Woodrow Wilson was in office.
Yeah, somebody flew it mistakenly. Yeah, and they just took to it because racists aren't really about the history of things.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, oftentimes like. They don't know the Constitution. They don't know civics. They don't. They have a very convoluted idea of what history was.
True.
They don't read.
Yeah.
I would question if you write. Just like all the different basics to be, I don't know, a literate human. Oftentimes it's just not something that they possess. And then also even to your point about that rebel flag. It's pertinent to know that even Robert E. Lee didn't want statues. He didn't want any type of lauding of the Civil War when it came to the Confederacy. He was vehemently against it. So like, and it wasn't until you saw like a lot of those particular statues started happening in the early 1900s, which was not too long after the forming of the Ku Klux Klan. And also that's when Woodrow Wilson was in office, and he was the first president to show a movie at the White House. And the movie that he showed was Birth of a Nation, which was it was a propaganda film to boast up the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Wow. Craziness. Tons of mice. He's dropping some knowledge here about adopted flag in 1904. It was big in the Dixie Crack Convention in 48. That's one of the things. And here, Nakasuchi says the KKK was created in 1862-ish. And
no, it was later than that. It was somewhere. It was closer actually to the turn of the 20th century. I want to say 1897. I'm going to double check my dates.
Right.
Real quick.
And there's this notion that we've got about this. All these things happened. One bing, bing, bing again right after another. They didn't really. There was a generation between this and this. The things they did, and where we talked about just 1904. The what is it? Daughters of the Confederacy in 1904.
Oh, actually, 1865 was creation, not too long after the.
So he was close. She was pretty close. No.
Yeah. Okay. Continue. Yep. Sorry.
No. So we got all right. So that's a great one. Let's go 1865. 1865 is great. 1865. The foundation of the KKK. A generation, 2 generations later, in technically speaking, 1904. The Daughters of Confederacy started to fly the rebel flag. Another generation later, almost 2 generations later, in 1948, the Dixie Crack Convention. That they just can't. They can't not know. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the flag was never really flown. It doesn't matter. They don't care. It doesn't matter that Star Trek has had more years on TV and has been alive longer than their Confederacy was. Which, have you seen that meme? We should be building statues of Spock.
I agree.
He's had more of an influence on our society than...
Spock was fascinating, and he was quick to call out things that were not logical. And when you think about a lot of this crap that's going on, it's not logical, it's not reasonable, and live long and prosper. Where am I at? There we go. Live long and prosper.
LLAP. Yeah, it's just it's hate. You know, it's hate couched in every other thing. It's hate couched in I'm not going to wear my mask. That's not about the mask, is it, though? It's about one side of the fence being against everybody that's common sense. That's how I see it anyway. You know, now you've got these people doing the thing where they're burning their masks. Have you seen it? They're burning their masks is like burning bras, I guess. It's, remember, they tell them don't protest. Protesting is bad, but whenever it's time for them to protest, they show up at the protest with guns, machine guns, heavily armored and stuff. When we protest, okay, so who was it? I don't remember which it wasn't Kaepernick, I don't think, but somebody, football player did something. Nike said, hey, we support this guy's message, and right-wing wingnuts were setting their damn shoes on fire.
It was Kaepernick.
It was Kaepernick?
It was Kaepernick. Yep.
Okay, okay, Kaepernick. But it was Nike, and they start setting their damn shoes on fire. You know, when our children want decent education, et cetera, and they're marching in the streets because of the problems of our education, these right-wing nuts are going, we ought to just run them down. And they fucking do. They have. And yet, whenever they're how many times did Obama come after their guns? Fucking never. How many people come in? They made it through with their M15s. How many school shootings did we have? Did we have enough school shootings for you people on the right to keep you bastards happy? So never came after your guns. They need to have their guns in case of a fucking oppressive government comes in and starts throwing away our Constitution and turning it into a fascist state. Wait, it's happening. And what are they doing? They're helping them. They are fucking helping them. Pardon my language, ladies. Sorry, it's all related back to the race. So for those who don't understand, it really is.
I like to say
it's okay. I'll be all right.
It's for the record, right? Yeah, just get the take some of that anxiety medication. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you're all right, Chris.
That's right. I need some of that. For the record, today at noon my time, 2 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to do a Ranty Chris stream. Where it's not going to be on this channel, it's going to be on my Chris Mallard channel, Ranty Chris stream, and it's going to be about defunding the police and stuff. We may even talk about some of these things. Obviously, the Second Amendment is going to come up because, we have to really militarize our police because we've got all these jackasses out in the field with guns. Because over the years, all these years, the conservative right-wing people have been going, let's get as many guns in people's hands as we can. So I got a Ranty Chris coming up today about that sort of thing.
Ooh, I'll have to see that while I'm in the midst of cleaning.
There you go.
A whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So that'll be 2:00 Eastern. I'm gonna do that. I just got to figure out the nerding part of it because I got stream out of this software to a different channel, and how do I set that up through different? I don't know, but we'll find out here shortly. So 2 p.m. on the Chris Mallard channel. Yeah, Chris. So if you're not subscribed to me on the Chris Mallard channel, you ought to bump over there and subscribe late to the Amazing Super Chris, because that's what's going to happen. On the Damn Show channel, this channel is just going to be the Damn Show going forward. So all my scripted stuff and ranty stuff will be over there. So
I binge watched all your videos over on that channel for you.
Did you? Yes, you were wonderful. I really enjoy making those Evil God Monster of Abraham series.
I enjoyed listening to them. So
thank you. Yes, thank you very much. If you haven't watched them, bump over there. That's the only thing that's over on the Evil. Matter of fact, the Rage is here. The Raging Atheist Nakasuchi is also doing a similar study of the Bible where he's going through it. He's calling it. I think it's. Man, forgive me if I'm saying this wrong. The Bible is stupid. I call it the Evil God Monster of Abraham series. He calls it the Bible is stupid. And then he'll go through and he talks about the Bible. And I was watching, I went and checked my dates to make sure my Evil God Monster episode 4 came out before his came out. And then I watched mine and his, and I was like, man, it's that screwed up a book that we don't even touch on the same reasons why it's a bad book. It's not one of those things where I went and saw his video and it echoed all of my points. No. Rage didn't go copy me. We just had a good idea about the same different things. So you go watch his stuff. It's different, but it's the same thing. It's pointing out how crazy this stuff is. We've done the hour. We're a quarter after. I want to say goodbye to you guys and shut down the show and go have a great weekend. I want you to have a great weekend. You to have a great weekend. You have a great weekend.
Everybody, Oprah.
Everyone have a great weekend. You get a great weekend.
That's right. Okay. Everybody, look under your chairs. Anyway, yeah. Okay, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you all. You're wonderful. Okay, y'all have a great weekend. I'm gonna have Sci-Fi Saturday on tomorrow. I love saying this. I can't help saying this. I don't know if it gets me past the censors or not, but tomorrow we're gonna have the wonderful, amazing, the beautiful sci-fi nerd Leanne Lord is gonna be on our channel for tomorrow. She's always a co-host on Saturday. She is wonderful. We're also gonna have Dick Dawson. It is Dawson, not Dawkins. Dick Dawson from the Shills channel on our show. He's really big into the Shills. He's a wonderful. Dick is a lot of fun. We're going to get us some Dick tomorrow. If you want some Dick, swing by the show tomorrow and get some Dick. Yeah, Dick Dawson is a lot of fun. He, you look at his picture, it's his little avatar is like this clean cut gentleman, with a tie and everything. Clean cut, and then you see him in person. He looks like Animal from the Muppets. Animal, he's a lot of fun. So we're gonna have a good time tomorrow. So you guys, if you don't mind, stop by and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, my Chris Miller channel, because that's where I'm gonna do Ranty Chris later today. Cynthia McDonald, I got the links to her stuff down below because she's got a ton of stuff going on, and the Sassy Heathen. I think what subscriber count are you at? Mindy?
I was at 88 last time I looked, so I'm so close to that 100 mark.
She's getting close. Yes, she's rushing towards that 100 mark, and we need to get her to that 100 mark. So if you're not subscribed to Miss Mindy, surprise. All right, so you guys have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. We will see you tomorrow for Sci-Fi Saturday. Thank you, and take care. Thank you for watching the show. A special shout out to my gold level Patreon supporters, the Blazing Wizard Pope, Ian Davenport, Cindy Plaza, and tons of mice. Thank you, and have a great day.